Greetings, brothers and sisters. Bunch of stuff to get to. Another funny Trump Biden meme. Bunch of stuff. But let's start here with one Don. Don Lemons changes his tune. CNN says he's tired of network's constant Trump rants in first interview since demotion from prime time to breakfast slot. Slot, I mean, not the other word that I sort of said. CNN host Don Lemon spent last 8 years in primetime slot, but will now be moving into a new role as the primary host of CNN this morning. In an interview with Lemon aired his frustration about the network, known for slamming former President Trump in his primetime CNN slot. He has since claimed that he has grown tired of how politics were handled at the network. He didn't seem tired at the time, and then there's this. Wokey, CNN airs slick promo for new morning show with turtleneck-wearing Don Lemons after he claimed he got bored of network's constant anti-Trump rants. So it starts off with a little bit of a espresso shot of espresso, right? Nice little touch for CNN. A new morning show is coming.
Your first time live on CNN was on my show?
I think so.
Let's make this about me.
You were the first anchor to really put me on their show.
Boom. Don, Poppy, and Caitlin. Watch them just completely slobber all over Don Lemons.
You started 2008?
Yeah, and
2006.
2006 was my freshman year.
Of high school, college, high school.
Actually, I was in 8th grade.
You were in 8th grade?
She was in 8th grade when Don Lemon was on CNN. A different morning show. Passing out the lattes.
We'll walk into a diner, and you come in and you get whatever amount of news that you can, and you start your day.
People's time is so valuable.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Is that what you actually believe? People's time is so valuable. Have you seen humanity? Do you know how people spend their time? I mean, yeah, pretty much anything else is better than watching you guys on CNN. So yeah, it's more valuable than watching you guys, but it isn't valuable. Like most people are just wasted their lives away, right? Yeah, of course, watching CNN is worse than wasting your life away doing something else.
You come in and you get whatever amount of news that you can, and you start your day.
People's time is so valuable that if they have 15 minutes to watch the news, that's a lot of time.
It's almost like a real conversation that they're letting us be a part of.
We need to cover
That was a great look by Don Lemons. Watch.
time.
We need
I'm lucky to have a job. Like he's woken up. He's lucky that he has a job.
to cover more what is happening across America. I knew he was a real friend when
It's a group of friends.
you flew to Slovenia for our wedding. And all my friends from Minnesota were like, oh my God, that's Don Lemon. And I was like, I work at CNN too.
Look at Caitlin's mouth. She's going to devour one of them. Look at that monster. Look at reptilian mouth, that alien mouth. The jaw hinges, and she's able to devour poor little Don Lemons.
What do you think this new show will be?
And it's your job to connect all the dots. And for someone who's getting ready with their kids in the morning or has 5 minutes to watch the news.
People just want to be heard.
It's really all about the conversation.
Exactly. Conversation.
We're the place for accuracy, and we're the place for context.
No, you're not. You're not the place for accuracy. Come on. Come on now. CNN this morning. Don Lemons, Poppy Harlow, and Caitlin Collins. Starting November 1st, I can hardly wait. There's some good mocking to be had, especially the initial shows where they try to define themselves. It's going to be great. It's going to be epic.
But you see that sucker over there? 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds. But you see that sucker?
This is a great meme, and I realize it's not real for any stupid Biden fans. They usually don't show up on my channel, but just in case. Okay. Get some music. I'm going to go over here. Where am I going? Where do I go? Over here, over there, spin around, go there. over there. There we go. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Look at him go. That's great. Let's do that again. It's like a Britney dance. Okay, I can go left. No, I'm supposed to go right. I go right. No, left or right. I'll spin around to time. Okay, over there. Okay, there we go. Let me go. He's got that Crypt Keeper do here. The Crypt Keeper mullet, like a, it's the kind of hairdo you see on a skeleton. So one of my viewers reminded me I said that before. It's like you see a skeleton, still got some hair on it, like the Crypt Keeper. And it's like he's just a corpse. He's a walking corpse. And they're just we're waiting for him to figure out a plan for his exit because he's, they gotta ship him off. So one of my viewers sent me this. Madam Expiration Date. I have a confession to make. I was not circumcised. Okay, so you're finally admitting that you gotta... And she's just so desperate, right? I mean, she gets more desperate. Love is not a safe word, but it is the safe things that kill you in the end. Well, that's not true. Are you saying Twinkies and processed foods are safe? Because like that's not anyway. You may have learned from your mother or any other hunted woman, smiling at devils is useful. Learned thing. Swallowing discomfort down in spades. Hold it in tight in your belly. Aging on the inside only, keeping it forever sexy. This is a poem by one of my favorite poets. Somebody there, I don't know. And then she posts all these desperate photos of a desperate woman who's afraid of expiring or realizing she's expired. It's one more. That's it. And so it's just so like sad and pathetic, right? The older she gets, the more desperate and the more expiration date she becomes. The thing about it is when you get older, you realize what a dummy you are, right? You were when you were younger. I mean, when you're significantly older, especially when you're in your teens and 20s. And so you naturally do things differently because you've evolved. And your body's different, your energy level's different, your testosterone level or whatever it is different, right? Your hormones are different, everything's different. You're more mature, you're less emotional, you're more reasonable. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen, right? You're supposed to get, better, like a more likable person. You're not as good looking in terms of your youthful, your physical body, your wrinkles, all these things, right? You're older. You're not as strong physically. You can't do as much. But you should be wiser and you should have evolved. Madonna is doing the same things, even more so, desperately trying to look sexy, like, just everything, right? And it's embarrassing because she's still trying to be in her teens and early 20s, and she's aged. She's older than me. She's in her 60s, and she's still trying to be that it girl or whatever it is. And it's just embarrassing. It gets worse every year. It's like Saturday Night Live. They try to be funny, and they fail, and they don't even know what it's like to be funny anymore. But they're still out there, right? There's a time where you're just supposed to hang them up because it's embarrassing to keep on going. Like you're just making a fool of yourself. There's no purpose. You've had your time, and whatever time Madonna had is like, what made her relevant at the time. All these other girls, all these other younger girls are doing the same thing and doing it, better. And it's just, it's time for her to move on. Like, remember that time when she made out with Britney Spears and it was supposed to be like her passing the torch? And now she's still hanging on that torch, right? Anyways. Newsback TV bans reporter over wacky rant about Satan, insects, and drinking blood. So this is Lara Logan, who used to be on 60 Minutes and Fox, and she was assaulted, sexually or something, in one of those, in Iraq or one of those countries.
It's right out of the playbook. They're right out of the socialist playbook. You divide and conquer. You don't tell them your intent. You get people to come in. You got your useful idiots, those of us who are paying for these people to have all these luxuries. And they
Yeah, exactly. This Newsmax just gets it.
lie about it. Yeah. How's it end?
Well,
How does it
badly. It ends badly for some. Okay, so on a serious note, people of all faiths have said to me that this is a spiritual battle. I am a firm.
See, when you say it's a spiritual battle, I just want to say this, because lots of people say this here. Spiritual battles don't take place on the material world. I mean, they do, but they don't, right? Because that implies that there is a good guys and they have the backing of God and they defeat the bad guys and then everything's good and there's a happy ending. That's how people have been trained to think. That doesn't exist, right? This isn't going to happen here. Our civilization is demonic. Our society is demonic. Our system is demonic. And by demonic, I mean it opposes the natural order of things, the divine order of things, and God's will. It's an ego-based system that is about ego gratification and selfishness, and it goes against the natural order of things, the divine order of things. And so that's what I mean when I say demonic. Not in the biblical sense, but in terms of you either align yourself with God's will or you're demonic, right? You go off on your own and you do your own thing and you thumb your nose at God, and that's when you've become a demon. And most people are doing that. Even religious people are doing that. They have lost touch with their soul and their soul's purpose. These things I cover here so much, right? And so this idea that there's going to be a spiritual battle and it's somehow going to divinize this system, it's a debt-based economic system. Our parents sold out the system. Well, let's just let her finish here. I'll cover this more at the end.
That this is a spiritual battle. I am a firm and solid and immovable believer in God. And I believe that God wins. I believe that good is greater than evil. And I believe that the fallen angel, otherwise known as Satan, doesn't get to prevail in this world.
There was a thing that my brother was telling me, that a woman came up to Master Charge and said, I just don't understand, does the Sahaj Marg system, the previous master of the system, and said, I don't understand how God would run this world this way. And he said, wait, you think God's running this world, right? We have freedom of choice. And that's how what you're seeing here is freedom of choice, right? And this is what people are choosing. And, people have been conned into choosing this, and this, it's not always what people will choose. It's also the yuga, it's also the time period. But this is what we've chosen. Like the world the way it is now is what we've collectively chosen. And some people, of course, worse than others, but we've all kind of gone along with it, right?
So if you follow the Bible, or if you follow the Quran, or you follow the Book of Mormon, people talk in various different ways about the end times. And if you fight for God, God will fight for you. But humanity.
Final thought, Lara. Final thought, though. I have to ask you this because my audience is very God-fearing, God-loving, etc.
God-fearing and God-loving. They're scared of God, but they also love God.
Final thought. Only a couple of seconds, please. Is God okay with a closed border?
It's much bigger than that. God believes that in sovereignty and national identity and the sanctity of family and all.
God doesn't believe in sovereignty, right? God doesn't believe in governments, right? This is a construct. This is our construct. Governments are not from God. Governments will never be from God. Governments can serve God. The government you create can align itself with the divine principles, right? And the people themselves can be spiritual in nature, and that's not what's happening now, right? But God doesn't care about sovereignty, right?
All the things that we've lived with from the beginning of time. And he knows that the open border is Satan's way of taking control of the world through
What are you talking?
all of these people who are his stooges and his servants. And they may think that they're going to become gods. That's what they tell us. Yuval Noah Harari and all the rest of them at the World Economic Forum. The ones who want us eating insects, cockroaches, and that while they dine on the blood of children. Yeah. Those are the people.
Oh, wow. There you go. That got her off of Newsmax. The blood of children. She's okay. until she went full QB, right?
Right? They're not going to win. They're not going to win.
They're not going to win. There's no winning or losing in this thing. There's a collapse of a system and everybody losing their lifestyle. That's what is going to happen, right? It's not like there's winner and losers. I mean, it's a system that was there for a while, and we had all these privileges, and we had the biggest privilege, which was free time, which we've misused, and, now we are wherever we are. But, that's Lara and Logan. But she'll get a lot of love somewhere, right? And this is the kind of thing where she goes on the internet. I don't know what she has. She was fired from Fox, I think it said in the article. And she was on 60 Minutes, I know that, before that. CBS or one of those things. But, she'll get a following somewhere. Gina Davis details shutting down Jack Nicholson's sexual advances. She just hammered Bill Murray. And now she's 66. A lot of people are 66. Well, she hasn't aged well, but at least she's not doing the plastic surgery stuff. Can't have it both ways, right? You can't mock people for plastic surgery and then, when this kind of thing happens. Meghan Markle slammed as hypocrite for taking SNFW acting gig post game show exit. She quit the game show, the suitcase show. And then she took a raunchy role on 90210 after she said she was tired of being stupid and being objectified. Madonna makes bizarre circumcision confession on Instagram. Madonna made a head-scratching confession on social media that she never got circumcised, a surgery done to male genitalia after birth. I think she was talking about how this is done maybe in some countries, like some African countries or whatever. But it's coming off like she has a Johnson, right? Kanye West on loving Kim Kardashian for life. We're only divorced on paper. So it's a love story after all. And so I may be divorced on paper, but I'm not divorced from the idea of being the protector. This was on Piers Morgan. Her name is no longer West, and my name is only Ye. I guess he got rid of West as well. If we were ever to be together again, what would our name be? Kim Ye? In the Mahabharata, the good guys, the Pandavas, won. There was a battle between two families, the Pandavas and their Pandavas, I don't know, and the Kauravas, who were the cousins of the Pandavas. And, it was a family battle, loved ones, it was a whole thing. And the Pandavas won. They were on, Krishna was on their side, and you could say the good guys won. But right after that, the Kali Yuga came in. Like, things got really crappy after the Mahabharata. And the end of Dharma, the end of people, doing their duty for God. And there's a whole, the age of Dharma ended and the age of karma action began. And that's what we see now. Of course, they call it the age of iron, which is the Kali Yuga. But, there was a victory by the so-called good guys. But there's, that doesn't mean anything. That never means happily ever after or any of these things, right? And so it certainly wasn't in that case, because that was the end of a good spiritual time and the beginning of what we now have. And it's the complete collapse, the immorality that's happening, the social breakdown, and all the rest of it. And, people who are like Christian or are religious, and they believe that there can be a solution. There's a lot of you in the truth community that believes that there's a solution. And the reason you believe that is you've been programmed your whole life to believe in good or evil, and a bad guy and a good guy, and that eventually the good guy wins. And the good guy's backed by God. And then, good things happen. There's happily ever after afterwards. And there's never happily ever after. That doesn't exist. Because there'd be no point, right? There'd be no point to coming out to life, to being a human being or any kind of animal, if there was just happiness. In fact, suffering's a big part of it. What if you played a video game? What if there was a video game that was called Happily Ever After? And there was no conflict. there's no action, there's no drama, it'd be the worst video game ever. And you can think about your life as a video game, a simulation, and there has to be things, obstacles to overcome. There's no just, oh, I'm going to be happy every day for the rest of my life. Eventually, your life has to end. You know, I'm covering this in my Journey series, in my next Journey series video, and I'm going to talk about this here as well. You know, I had this realization, which, you know, I know, but I know on a deeper level, that the essence of spirituality is just accepting God's will and God's plan, even though it's not what you want, your ego wants, or it's miserable, it's a difficulty. I mean, that's the, you know, challenge for everybody. It's easy to accept the good things, but it's not always. Some people just love to be losers. So, I mean, it's very common that people can't accept the good things either. They can't accept the good things that come into their life. They screw them up, right? You know, a great person comes in your life and, you know, be a significant other, and you screw it up because, you know, you don't think you deserve to be happy or whatever it is. I mean, it's, you know, humans suck, right? Like, there's so many different ways you can suck. But the, you know, majority of us really find it difficult to accept the bad things that happen, even though they're for our best. I mean, they're part of God's plan, and they're for, you know, our best spiritual evolution, right? For us to evolve spiritually. And so what Laura Logan was saying is a child's way of looking at what's going on in the world. And both sides look at it this way, whether you're atheistic or whether you're a religious person, that there's going to be a battle between the right and the left, and there's going to be a winner and a loser, and there's not. There's not going to be anything like that, right? What there's going to be is a collapsing civilization. This civilization is corrupt, it's demonic, it's bankrupt, and it's short-lived. Even if it was great, it still has a time. There's been great civilizations that are based in people's divinity and their connection to God, and they collapse, right? Even good things collapse. Everything dies. So we're going through this phase. We're in a bad situation. And I've said this almost so many times in my videos. We're 100% dependent on a system that's demonic, or whatever percentage. Some of us are a little bit less dependent on it, but we all, you know, are dependent on it. The older you get, the harder it is to change, and physically and the rest of it. And so, you know, we're in a situation where the system is going to be less good in terms of our material desires. And, you know, we have this idea, people have this idea that you can somehow get rid of the evil part of the system and still have all the good things. And that's not possible. The good things are based in the debt-based economic system. The wealth that we have, the unfair wealth, the unequal distribution of wealth is a part of that, right? There are people living in unbelievable poverty because there are people living in, you know, epic amounts of wealth, right? And so you can't have both things. You can have a more balanced society. And, you know, it's based in also, I mean, in terms of the work that people are going to do. And there's people who don't even tie their own shoes or wipe their own butts, like the whole, you know, the groom of the stool that the royal, you know, the family, the king has, right? The stool groom, right? The person that takes care of the king's bowel movements. I mean, there's people who have a completely, you know, 0% primary labor, right? Primary labor, cooking food, making clothes, providing services, digging ditches, building buildings, harvesting resources, wood, or whatever it is, right? And so there are people who have no primary work. They don't cook food. They don't shop for food. They don't grow food. They don't do anything to do with food. They don't do anything in terms of primary labor. They don't do anything physical. They don't do anything outdoors. They have zero survival skills, right? They have zero contact with the primary labor that helps them survive, keeps them alive. Other people they've outsourced this, and other people take care of them 100%, right? And so, and there's just, you know, various levels of that. And so very few people have any real skills. And there's people who can go to the grocery store and buy food and make food, but most of it's grown for them, harvested for them, prepared, and they have very little abilities, right? And then there's people who can grow food. There's people who have some, you know, skills. They can build things. They can use tools, or whatever it might be. Some people can make clothing, whatever, various, you know, things that are necessary, but it's a very small amount of people. And most people have one or two skills, not all of them, like they used to have. And so that's what's at stake here. I've said this before. Like, it's a huge learning curve. And when, the shit hits the fan, which it is, it's hitting right now, what happens, right? And that's the system collapsing. And if it collapses partially where you have a bunch of poor people and then more people living in opulence, like some Hunger Games scenario or whatever it ends up, or there's a complete collapse of civilization or back to caveman days or whatever it might be. It's various levels, the various, scenarios that unfold. Still, there's going to be a complete collapse because the system sucks. And if God's going to win, like Laura Logan says, there needs to be a complete collapse and then something new and something better that comes in its place, right? And the reason why there has to be a complete collapse is as long as there's still some remnants of the past system, nobody will accept a new system. Some people accept one system, some people accept another. But if you want to bring in a new economic system, a new lifestyle, bring in wide sweeping changes, people would reject it. And they would hate you. They would be blaming you. And, whether you had God's will at your back and you were doing God's bidding and God communicated to you and appeared to you and channeled the system, no one would accept it, right? And so things have to get really bad before a new system can be put in place. This is what they're saying with the Agenda 20 or Agenda 30 that's supposed to be like where people live, where they don't own anything. They live in small apartments in, hive-like cities. They rent everything and they like it. They said they're going to like it because the economy is going to collapse and people are going to be so scared they'll take that deal. And that's a temporary deal because it's still, the system has to go completely. And that has nothing to do. That's not a divine deal. That's just the people controlling the system trying to, give you a new deal, right? They're trying to give, the collective people a new deal. And to do that, things have to get really bad. But for a wide sweeping changes where people relinquish some of the control of their egos, connect to their soul, go deeper into their spiritual process and their spiritual reasons for being here, and they change their whole orientation to the world from being, materialistic, entitled, immature brats, right, to being spiritual, wise people who are, willing to sacrifice and do for others and do God's work or do God's bidding. There has to be wide sweeping changes, like a complete collapse. And then they can sweep in something new. But, that's where we are. So all these dopes like Laura Logan who think there's some battle between the left and the right or the good and the evil, it's none of that because the system itself has to go. And there's no battle because the battle is about who gets to control a dying system. And the answer is nobody, right? Because it's dying. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.